It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Evans. I will be your host this morning. First name, Miguel. Why do I say Miguel? Well, because we're about to become a Spanish nation. I mean, we just let 36,000 criminals, many of them guilty of murder, rape, robbery, assault, free into our society. We've been overrun. Our nation has descended into a lawless gangland thuggery. We're a gigantic Chicago, bleeding from every orifice. What is wrong with our nation? You know, I generally promote this program as one where you can gather information and get informed about things the mainstream Ministry of Propaganda won't tell you about. But of late, I got to tell you, it's more than just about getting informed. It's about getting informed, getting pissed, and fighting back. Because I got to tell you, America, we're running out of time. In fact, I believe the time has passed for political solutions. ICE, that's going to be one of our topics this morning, the first one, releases 36,000 criminals. It's an act of treason. Treason. Let me say it again so you get it. Don't shy away from it. Don't hide from it. Don't cower. Don't wince. Treason. Treason. Begin using that word every opportunity you have, everywhere. Shout it from the rooftops, ladies and gentlemen, because treason is what it is. Don't give me a textbook definition. Aiding and abetting the enemy, doing anything and everything that you can to destroy your own nation from within is treason by anybody's definition. Released into the community. Released among 300 million innocents who have no knowledge, who have no way to fight back, no idea that these poisonous snakes have been released. You know, it's insane to me. I don't want to hear about any more hearings on Capitol Hill. I don't. You know, it's time, America, that we collectively, and I got to tell you, you know, here's the problem. You better learn how to fight with everything at your disposal, because we are about to enter into a fight to the death. And in a fight to the death, there are no rules of fair play. There are no rules for the Marquis of Queensberry. They will not save you. No one is going to come to your defense. No one is going to step up and say, I'm the knight in shining armor. No one is going to ride up on their trusty steed. No cavalry is going to come over the hill. Either you will fight now to win, or you will die. And your death will be ignoble. You will be a cowering, simpering, whining slave. Right up to the moment when your heart stops beating and you expel your last breath. Going forward, America needs to make the following peace with itself, and that is simply this. You need to look in the mirror, look at yourself, shut the door, have some quiet time by yourself, and say, you, me, we are a dead man walking. Nothing that you can do, nothing that they can take away from you, nothing you can lose is worth dying that ignoble death. Either way, you're going to lose it anyway. You're either going to lose it by voluntarily giving it up in the hopes of something greater, or you're going to lose it permanently at the hands of tyrants and monsters and murderers. Not illegal murderers, the murderers on Capitol Hill. Washington's loaded with them. Your state capital, loaded with them. Your local county and state and city police forces, loaded with them. Murderers, tyrants, traitors. Self-serving. Ideologues. Savage, bloodthirsty men and women who seek your demise or your enslavement, but they will be satisfied with nothing less. Those are your two options, enslavement or death. The choice is yours. Now, you can fight back. You can rage against this machine that seeks to destroy you, or you can sit back on your couch and eat some more chips. You can fight now while you can, peacefully, or you can prepare to physically defend yourselves from those who will do you harm. But the time is up to sit around wringing your hands. The time is up of saying, we can solve this in 2014. We can solve this in 2016. We can solve this in 2012, in 2008. The elections are rigged. The media is rigged. The corporatocracy is rigged. The politicians are bought and sold. The judges are under direct orders and bought and sold. Anyone who thought they had an opportunity to fight on your behalf has been compromised, coerced. The nation is under threat from external and internal threat. It is exigent, danger close. The bombs are falling right outside your line of defense. Now, you can pick up a rifle, or you can lay down in that foxhole and wait until the enemy comes over the hill and stabs you to death. Did you ever watch that movie? I think it was, I can't even think of the name of it now. We were soldiers once, or we were young once and soldiers, or something like that. And Sam, I can't think of his last name, the cowboy guy who's got that real deep voice. He was sitting there. They were completely surrounded by the enemy. They were in this tiny little on this tiny little spot where they were completely surrounded. They were under assault from tens of thousands of enemy. And there was an embedded photographer with them. And it was clear they were about to be overrun. And he walks over to the guy and he says, "Prepare to defend yourselves, men. Prepare to defend yourselves. They're coming through the wire." And the photographer looks at him and he hands him a gun and he says, "Today you're not a photographer. Today you're not a photographer. Today you are not an idle citizen standing by. Today you are not sitting on your couch eating another damn bag of potato chips. Today, you are not one worried about losing your job. Today, you are not one worried about losing your home. Today, you are not one worried about how you're going to make the car payment on your Lexus. Today, you are not going to worry about whether or not they're going to come and seize and take your family's boat or your weekend home or your farm. The enemy is through the wire. They're not at the wire. They've come through it. The barbarians have come through the gate, and they are eating our children. Who will stand? Who? Who among you will stand? The time for cowering and simpering is over. When your own government releases 426 sexual assault criminals, 303 kidnappers, 193 murderers, 1,317 wife beaters and child abusers, and 1,724 armed criminals into our midst, knowingly, willfully, to prove a point, to make your life miserable, painful, injurious. That is an act, ladies and gentlemen, of treason. We're not just closing down national parks to make it painful. We're not just going to limit who can work and mail out the checks in an effort to try to hurt you, to prove a point. This goes beyond that. This is an act of violence against your own nation. And that, ladies and gentlemen, by anyone's definition, is an act of treason. Have any of these people committed crimes? We don't know yet. You can bet money they have. 15,000 drunk driving. Who's going to say, I'm sorry, to the mother who sits there in agony and anguish because her daughter and her son were killed on the way to high school by a drunken, criminal, illegal alien released? Who's going to comfort the daughter raped by a criminal, illegal alien released into our community? Who's going to comfort the father whose wife was murdered for $12 in her wallet? Who's going to comfort the parents of the child kidnapped and held for ransom by criminal, illegal aliens within our borders, released by your own government, released by your president, released by your Congress, released by your Border Patrol, those sworn to uphold and defend you against all enemies, sworn? Who will comfort you? Who will comfort the woman who was raped? Who? Who will make up for that? Who will make amends? How can amends be made? Keep you safe? Surveillance everywhere, monitoring of everything you do, tracking your movements, tracking your purchases to keep you safe. Monitoring your email, listening to your communications to keep you safe. And meanwhile, they open up the door outside the castle, the one that's used to fill the midden heap. And they allow the enemy to sneak in the dead of night. That is an act of treason. That is an act of murder. And the politicians and the individuals who are on a payroll and have sworn an oath to protect and defend this nation are guilty. guilty of treason. Guilty as charged. We cannot wait for impeachment. We cannot wait for a compromised legislature to do that which should have been done 6 years ago. $60 years ago. We, you, and I, we the people, must march upon our own capitals. We must march upon our state and our federal capitals and remove these traitors. Label them dishonorably discharged. Exile them from the nation. No quarter asked and none given. Dishonorably discharged. Exiled. You hear about American Spring. They want to go there and serve these people with notice to get to stand down. I'm going to tell you something, America. That ain't enough. That ain't enough. There are about, maybe 2 million torturers and persecutors and sadistic murderers that run this nation. Oh, they're paid for by another million. This isn't some OWS rant. The truth is, every one of them should be labeled, tattooed across their forehead in permanent ink, and stamped on the back of their hand. Dishonorably discharged. So that everyone knows they bear the mark of death. They bear the mark of traitor. They bear the mark of treason. Exiled from this nation. Give them 2 weeks. Exit or else. No quarter asked, none given. America, the time is up for talking and voting and protesting and yelling and shouting and screaming and praying. If this 36,000 illegal criminal violators of our nation's borders and our sovereignty released into an unassuming, innocent, unknowing public is not a fulcrum for you to declare a war against your tormentor, your oppressor, and there isn't any. Your senators, your congressmen, they sit up there and say, well, we're going to open an investigation. Do you not hear the fallacy of that statement? Do you not see the lie run across the screen of their face? Do you not see the simpering, milquetoast, weak, flannel-mouthed lies? They're loaded with them. Nothing can come forth from a liar but more lies. Nothing good can come from men and women of evil. And this is evil. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is when good men do nothing. And we have done nothing. We have cowered in fear. They're going to take my stuff. They might lock me away. You're a slave already. You're already locked away. You've been locked away in your own mind for decades. Like the pig in the forest, you've allowed them to build a cage for you. First one wall, and you go and feed. And a week later, a second wall is built, but you still go and feed, and you don't recognize the danger. And a week later, a third wall is built, and you still feed. And then a roof appears, and still you feed. And then the trapdoor snaps shut behind you, and you still feed. Then come the knives. And suddenly, you realize America is lost to us without our direct and immediate intervention. Direct and immediate. Nothing else will suffice. Nothing else will suffice. No amount of protest, no amount of signs, no amount of letters, emails, phone calls will suffice. There is no substitute for an America that rises up and says we have nothing to lose. Nothing you have. Nothing they can take from you. Nothing that they can do to you. Nothing is worth that slavery. That ignoble, simpering, whining, crying, cowering death of a slave. If you don't believe that, you are lost to us, and you are lost to yourself. Today it was exposed that the United States Department of Agriculture has an order out there for fully automatic submachine guns with 30-round magazines. Ask yourself, who did you think they were going to use those on? Your enemy is arming itself to the teeth. Your enemy is threatening you. Your enemy is acting against you. Your enemy is working diligently. It is preparing. Your senators, Levin, I don't care how you want to say it, actively working with the IRS to suborn it's an act of treason. 50,000 Michigan citizens should be marching on the state capitol, every one of them carrying a set of handcuffs, every one of them demanding America, what are you waiting for? This pig should be afraid to show up for work. He should be afraid to leave Washington, D.C., because he should know that 50,000 citizens in his home state are surrounding the airport, waiting for his arrival to take him into custody, march him to a courthouse where a citizen's grand jury awaits. What is he guilty of, you ask? Colluding? Conspiring? Conspiring to violate and void the constitutional rights of those he is sworn to defend, protect, and represent. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an act of treason. If you had an honest news media, if you had an honest ministry of propaganda in this nation, well, first of all, we couldn't call them the Ministry of Propaganda. But if you had an honest, true journalistic body in this nation, there would be no news. There would be only headlines demanding the arrest, the trials, the convictions, and the sentencing of tens of thousands. The airlines would be processing thousands in handcuffs as they're marched onto planes and exiled from the nation with no hope of return. What of their families, you say? They may stay or they may go. But those guilty are gone. Those who would hide in the rat hole, the spider hole, like Saddam Hussein, when they're found, no quarter asked, none given. Levin, Chairman, the Senate, Homeland Security, Government Affairs, Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. He's the chairman of the Committee of Homeland Security, demanding the IRS be used as a weapon of homicide. To go out and find those who have an ideology that differs from his. What is terrorism? Define it. It is an act committed to force a political activity. to coerce, to obtain something under duress. Your government ordering 40 caliber machine guns. Your senators ordering the IRS to act as a weapon of mass destruction. Your IRS acting willfully, intentionally, with malice, seeking to rend and destroy. Not because these people are guilty of anything other than having an opinion that differs. This isn't terrorism by government for even the insanity of religious fervor or zealotry. You can't excuse that, but you might be able to understand it. But for ideological purposes, it is inexcusable and an act of terrorism. Political terrorism. This human piece of excrement, he demanded, and he knows better, he demanded the IRS release to him information he knows he is not entitled to have. He ordered them to break the law. And they're guilty. Those within the IRS are guilty as sin itself. Their own words, their own statements in writing are the proof. An unwilling confession to crime. There is no excuse. There is no justification. There is no forgiveness. There is no absolution. Levin has been in office, I don't know, 20-something years. He's a fat pig of a marshmallow. Have you ever seen him? Make you want to gag just looking at him. A disgusting piece of human excrement. Excrement with unbelievable authority and power. Excrement that has used and abused that power and authority in a treasonous action multiple times. not for the betterment of the nation, not for the improvement of the citizens of Michigan. He can't justify his actions as an improvement benefiting his constituency any more than Hitler could say, hey, genocide of the Jews and genocide of those Polacks over there and genocide of the mental retards and genocide of those who are not of pure blood is a benefit to the Aryan race. Evil cannot beget good. Evil, no matter how it is manipulated, cannot deliver a good result. There is no justification, no rationale, no excuse that justifies it. And Levin is only one of many. Yesterday, the story broke of a company in Britain that received a $1.25 billion contract. Their role, their job, is to process the paper applications from the Obamacare debacle because the people can't sign up through the mandated electronic method because it was bungled so bad. $5 billion spent on state websites, well over $1 billion now between the initial and the repairs to the federal one. Still doesn't work. Got to process the applications by paper. Rush out a $1.25 billion contract to a foreign corporation. And the employees are sitting, 3,700 of them. 3,700 employees sitting at desks to process paper applications. You know what their quota was? 1 to 2 applications a month. They sit at their desks all day long with direct orders from their superiors to hit the refresh button every 10 minutes. Not more often, and don't wait until 11 minutes. Every 10 minutes, hit the refresh button so it looks as if your computer is occupied and busy. Then you may talk to your neighbor. Then you may play solitaire. Then you may play chess. Then you may daydream. $3,700 people hired to do nothing but sit around and meet the requirements of a corporation of foreign origin. $1.25 billion stolen. Squeezed from the stones of America. So the president can declare a victory. The same president who just released 36,000 hardened, guilty, unrepentant criminals into the innocent midst. These are no longer acts of political gamesmanship, ladies and gentlemen. These are no longer the acts of men and women who seek to gain some personal wealth by a little surreptitious sleight of hand. These are acts of war. Acts of war. Your nation has declared war upon you. Your nation seeks your destruction or your enslavement. And frankly, they don't care which. They know there will be enough cowering, enough willful slaves. And they're not afraid to break a few eggs to make an omelet. How do I know? Well, the Department of Agriculture just posted a requisition for 40 caliber machine guns with 30 and 40 round capacity magazines and 2-shot burst capability. The U.S. Department of Agriculture? How many, we don't know. Why does the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration require automatic weapons? Why is it the right of every postmaster in every post office in the nation to have a fully automatic machine gun at their disposal? Why has Homeland Security been buying billions upon billions of bullets, hollow points, the self-same ones that are barred from use internationally for use on the battlefield, if not to kill you with? Why has the federal government demanded that the states relinquish their attack choppers in trade for unarmed transport choppers? Why? The Apaches have to be turned in with full armament to the federal government and replaced with stripped Blackhawks. No weaponry allowed. The federal government has disarmed the states, disarmed the 50 states and their ability to defend themselves and you under the rules of state sovereignty and independence, the Republican form of government guaranteed by the Constitution, which they wipe their ass with. The IRS and every employee in it, Homeland Security and every employee in it, ICE, Border Patrol, and every employee in it. Why are they all guilty? Because they refuse to expose treason when they know it's happening. It's not a whistleblower's job. It's a citizen's job. Border Patrol says, this isn't right. Great. Stop working. ICE representatives come out and say, this isn't right. We're being forced to break the law. Then collectively stand down. Stop monitoring the blue line. Police officers who say, I know that Officer X, Y, and Z and so is guilty of abusing their authority. And I can't cross the line because I'll be ostracized. When I make a call for backup, it won't come. Then find your brothers who are innocent as well and stand down. And if there are no innocents other than you, leave. Leave and expose it. What might they do to my family, you say? What might they do? They'll take my pension. They'll take my car. They'll take my home. If I stay in this position, I'll be protected. At what cost? Does that 30 pieces of silver weigh on you? You can't spend it. It's blood money. America, it's time for you to fight or die. There are no more days, no more nights, no more opportunities to sit and say, let's plot and plan a protest. No more letters to the editor, letters to your Congress rat. No more. You must. You must work together with those in your immediate area and those nationally. I know it sounds hard. We are so overdue for an American spring. Not one run by ex-NSA spooks like Vallely and Riley. Where is a George Washington when we need one? If there is one prayer that you can put forth, one prayer, pray for a leader to arise amongst us, a man of courage and conviction, a man of honor, a man of integrity, a man who has fire in his belly for righteousness, truth, who is free of the bounds and the bindings of corruption, coercion, who says, I am a dead man walking, and you can take nothing from me. I will stand. Pray for that man now. Don't wait another moment. Pray for that man unceasingly, endlessly. Let that prayer be upon your lips every moment of every day. Lord, send us a leader.
It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. Thanks for joining with us this morning. I don't know what it will take for America to stand up and do the right thing. I don't know why we have no leaders. No leaders of integrity, no leaders of honor. Oh, I know. No one wants to say what really needs to happen. No one wants to be the person to say, I'll be the leader. I'll have to live in secret. I'll have to speak out and say what everyone knows. No one will voice. That leader who is willing to stand and say, my life is forfeit. And that's all right. Because I stand with the torch of liberty in my hand, and I have only one duty and obligation, and that is to make sure that it stays lit and that I pass it on to those generations who come after me. And I am willing to give my life to accomplish that task. There are no other options, folks. Whoever this leader is, they'll have to live in hiding. They'll have to be supported by the partisans of our nation, who are willing to give up time, money, food, energy, effort. "50% of this nation is drugged into submission. 50% of this nation is dependent exclusively on government. That same government that seeks their enslavement and has accomplished it and gained it, while they willingly hang their head and say, 'Put the chains upon me.' I accept your chains." Now, can we eat? Millions upon millions of people with fear. Fear of what? Death? Every person that has ever lived upon the face of the planet has died. Every person currently alive and breathing right now will die. Your churches, your schools, the scumbags who represent you, allegedly, they all tell you that's the thing to fear. No, it isn't. The thing to fear is living as a slave under the domination of others. That is a fate worse than death. The will to live should never override the will to live free. Living a captive where is the life in that? And you are a captive. You may say you're not. I have the freedom of travel. I earn my living. I can come and go as I please. And you would be a fool. You know, the truly manipulated who don't realize they're being manipulated, that is the saddest. That is the most dangerous. And the tens of millions of Americans who are swallowing antidepressants by the handful, fully, terminally addicted to the pharmaceutical heroines and methadones and drugs, willfully allowing themselves to be manipulated, their minds altered by propaganda with the assistance of hypnotic drugs. Those who don't take the drugs, they just take the money. Those who don't take the drugs or the money, but just drink the Kool-Aid. Those who don't take the drugs or the money and don't drink the Kool-Aid and just think, I'll just sit this one out. And eventually, it'll go past me. They will someday wake up and realize there is no place to hide. There is nothing that we can do to recover any semblance of what you believed this nation to represent. The proof is everywhere around you. Media that can't find their own private parts with a magnifying glass and the help of, helpless, hapless, traitorous. They rely upon a not-for-profit like Judicial Watch to do their job for them. And when the traitors get betrayed, there's no honor among thieves. Jill Abramson, New York Times editor, first woman ever to sit at the New York Times in the Queen's chair. First female to ever hold the throne. Suddenly fired. You know why? Because she asked for equal pay. War on women? She, its staunchest ally, is also its first victim. How insulting. How hypocritical. How shameful. Our nation is awash with those who are burdened with self-interest. And they've become so filled up with the measure of their own evil. Many of them can't even see it. Many of them don't want to see it. Many of them are afraid to see it. Many of them wallow in it. But we know better, and we know right from wrong. You know, Jefferson said to us that honor, justice, and humanity forbid us tamely to surrender that freedom which we received from our gallant ancestors, and which our innocent posterity have a right to receive from us. We cannot endure the infamy and guilt of resigning succeeding generations to that wretchedness which inevitably awaits them if we basely entail hereditary bondage upon them. But we don't care about old fogies like him anymore. We don't care about guys like George Washington. We don't care about people like Patrick Henry and Thomas Paine. Franklin, Adams, Madison. We've given up. We've given up, and we have willfully betrayed ourselves and our posterity who will come after us. We no longer have a right to stand idle. You know, we've been fooled, and we've allowed ourselves to be. You know, this desire for peace and avoidance of confrontation, avoidance of violence, and avoidance of shame is our undoing. There was an essay in the National Gazette in 1792 that talked about this specific issue. It's just one sentence, and it says, "A universal peace, it is to be feared, is in the catalog of events, which will never exist, but in the imaginations of visionary philosophers, or in the breasts of benevolent enthusiasts." It's a fantasy. Gentlemen may cry peace, peace, but there is no peace. What peace do you call it when your own government seeks to injure you physically? That's too harsh a statement, I hear. Government is out there to protect us. Is that so? Protect you by releasing 36,000 criminals into your innocent, unknowing presence? By allowing and creating a cartel of bankers who would put you on the rack and crank and crank and crank until your bones give way. We are in a war. And either you will acknowledge that, or it will cost you your life. In Federalist Paper number 14, it says, "America united with a handful of troops, or without even a single soldier, exhibits a far more forbidding posture to foreign ambition than an America disunited with 100,000 veterans ready for combat." What does that mean? It says an America separated by race, and religion, and sex preference, and money, and ideology, and drugs. No, I don't mean cocaine and heroin. I mean the one that comes out of Pfizer and SmithKline. An America united, undivided, united against a common enemy. Common enemy called the IRS, the EPA, the USDA, who just bought some machine guns to do you in. The Department of Homeland Security that has acquired billions of rounds of ammunition to accomplish that task. The Border Patrol, which seeks every day to allow that which is dangerous to you to enter the realm of the innocent. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, which allow criminals guilty of murder and rape and robbery, child molestation, assault, and ushers them into our midst. unbeknownst to us. An NSA which seeks to know everything about you. Stalin and Goebbels are jealous and laughing hilariously, uproariously in their graves. America united against a common foe, a common enemy. That enemy is those which you've been supporting, listening to, honoring, electing. Ununited, we will die. They will take us out one by one, in small groups and large, individually, collectively. They will imprison some and kill others. Until there are none left but the willing, who will raise their hands above their bowed heads and say, "Give me my chains." Give me my chains. I willingly accept your enslavement. Is that what my countrymen are made of? Well, an elective despotism is not the government we fought for, but one in which the powers of government should be so divided and balanced among the several bodies of magistracy as that no one could transcend their legal limits without being effectually checked and restrained by the others. But since we've allowed that to happen, since we've allowed that to go on, and we haven't checked it, then besides the advantage of being armed, which Americans possess over the people of almost every other nation, we'll be right back. Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they have been in almost every kingdom of Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword, because the whole body of the people are armed and constitute a force superior to any bands of regular troops that can be, on any pretense, raised in the United States. Noah Webster. We have allowed our nation to be suborned. And we've allowed dishonorable, evil men and women to be placed into positions of authority, positions of authority over us. We have voted in our slave masters, and they have appointed overseers. Do you know that there was a thing called the original 13th Amendment? Not the one that you hear about. This was called the Title of Nobility Amendment. And it was specifically designed to be used to create a new title, a new label. That label is dishonorably discharged. It was ratified. It was part of the Constitution of the United States until it was stripped and removed. As far as 1868, I believe, is the last date I ever saw it. And it was in a book that was published and distributed talking about Constitution and government and the forms of it, even here in my own state of Missouri. Here's what it says. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain any title of nobility or honor, or shall, without the consent of Congress, accept and retain any present, pension, office, or emolument of any kind whatsoever from any emperor, king, prince, or foreign power, such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. Premise behind that, and I want you to understand the really important aspect of it, because it's not just accepting a title of nobility. See, the premise behind accepting a title of nobility is that you have betrayed the nation which you are a member by accepting a title from a foreign government or a king or an emperor or a foreign power, and that you then owe your allegiance to an alternate body that is not made up of your own countrymen. It's an external level of treason. But make no mistake, the internal level of that same treason can be applied when you have suborned and accepted or retained a present, a pension, an office, or an emolument of any kind whatsoever from any entity, including a cabal or a cartel of bankers. Or the title of senator, representative. When you accept a 10 or a 15 or a 50 or $100,000 from the likes of a Google Microsoft, IBM, Boeing, SmithKline, Pfizer, Monsanto. Is it any different? In fact, these organizations call themselves multinationals. So take out the center of the first sentence and replace it. It should read something more like this. If any citizen of the United States shall accept, claim, receive, or retain a title of nobility or an honor, a bribe, shall betray their own citizens and their constituents in favor of a corporatocracy, shall utilize or abuse or misuse the power and authority delegated to them, shall fail to protect and defend the borders, shall use an agency and power to persecute political enemies, shall purchase machine guns and volumes of ammunition to destroy and kill their fellow countrymen, shall release known criminals and non-citizens guilty of crimes of violence back into society for political, ideological purposes. Then such person shall cease to be a citizen of the United States and shall be incapable of holding any office of trust or profit under them or either of them. See, the truth is, every individual that is currently holding elected office in the nation is guilty. If you use the term honors, and you would include the idea of immunities and pensions and bribery via campaign contributions that come from anything other than an actual living, breathing, individual, single unit citizen, then every government employee, especially every elected employee, comes under fire. And all must be what? Dishonorably discharged. There are none there are none in our federal government that can or should be left in a position of authority. I don't care how freshman a congressman or senator. I don't care how recent an appointment to an agency. You see, people say, well, we can't do that. How could we do that? I mean, what would happen if we took every member of the executive staff of the EPA and put them all out of the country in chains and exiled them from the nation? Well, for starters, we would literally take the EPA and eliminate it and eviscerate it. Same with the Department of Education. Same with the USDA. Same with the IRS. It's too big a paradigm shift, you say. Isn't martial law and enslavement a paradigm shift you're not prepared for? I mean, tell me the difference there. Other than the fact that in one, you're on top, and in the other, you're on the bottom with a gun pointed at you. I mean, both are a vast change from what you know. And one has an opportunity for you to thrive, succeed, and grow. And the other has you cowering in the mud. And if you so much as lift your head for it to be shot off. America, there's nothing left for you to fear. Because all of your fears have been realized. The nation has collapsed. Fiscally, spiritually, emotionally, sociologically, politically. We're done. We're bankrupt. Your slave masters are in place. Vying for chairs, yes, but of course, I mean, that's a squabble amongst the elite. The places have been set. You don't realize it, but it's already undone. And you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. You can and should be willing to do whatever it takes to survive. But you've been drugged into submission. You've allowed yourself to be fooled, hoping beyond hope that this time you're going to actually find the marble under the walnut shell. It's beyond salvage. And it's funny because I've been using that term, got to be 10 years now. We are beyond salvage. There's no political salvation. There's no amount of voting that you can do that's going to change anything. We hear about Article 5. I'm a strong believer that Article 5 could work. But we don't have the time. We waited too long. We hear about Operation American Spring. But I can't trust the people who have set it up. I've spoken to them. I mean, their second in command is a Defense Department employee. And their primary guy is an ex-NSA spook. Hello. Do I want it to work? Sure, I want it to work. Do I believe that there's something far more egregious and dangerous to it? Yes. Is it a honeypot? Way to gather massive numbers of the true patriots together in one place? I fear so. Do I put that past these people in power? Hell no. They just released 36,000 known criminals in and amongst us, guilty of rape, murder, kidnapping, robbery, burglary, drug addiction, drug sales to your children. What would you put past them? What would you say would draw the line where government won't go? I don't know. Releasing criminal murderers, 426 rapists, 303 kidnappers, 193 murderers. They didn't serve their sentences, folks. You may have a relative or a family member or a friend or someone that you know who is sitting in jail now for a crime they committed. And they're not being released. And they were born here. And didn't crash the border and then commit a crime. Why do we owe greater deference to illegal aliens than we owe to our own citizens? I mean, I don't particularly like criminal activity, but at least they're my criminals. I'll be darned if I'm going to give special dispensation to a foreign criminal, a foreign rapist, a foreign murderer, a foreign drug dealer, kidnapper, child molester. What government, based upon this one incident alone, we can discount Benghazi and IRS. We can discount the EPA and their murderous rampage against their own nation and private property rights. We can discount the Fast and Furious scandal and the treason of Eric Holder. Just based on this one action alone, every person in the federal government should be removed and dishonorably discharged. If we could only save one child, just one, by taking away those horrible guns. How many times have we heard that cry? And the same people who cry that say, let's release these 426 rapists, 303 kidnappers, 193 murderers, 1,317 wife beaters into society. If you want to save just one child, why would you release 1,317 domestic violence convicted criminals? Are you saying that all of those were husbands and wives beating each other, not children? How about the 193 dead at the hands of the murderers that were released? If we could just save one, just one. But they'll defend this to the end. 100 a day. America, time's up. Time for a national uprising. National uprising. Go read the article I've posted up there, The Plan to Take Back America. Place all state and federal capitals under civil disobedience siege. No more fear, no more hiding in the shadows. Remove them. Still, if you will not fight when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than live as a slave. The only thing we have left, ladies and gentlemen, is our will to survive. But not survive as slaves, enslaved by debt, monitored, castrated, emasculated, cowering, fearful, and subservient to an elitist new world order that declares you to be food and livestock, to be used and abused and culled when you have violated the will of your master. But the will to live free. Time's up, America. Time's up.